What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Motor City Don P. We are back here once again. You already know what it is. It's Monday. So we are here for LNU. Shout out to everybody on the LNU team and in the LNU fam. But regardless of where we are, you know, when you see me on your TV, one thing is for certain and three things are for sure. Number one is that the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, not none of that static. Number three, we want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And that is perhaps the most important number of them all. Number three. And how do you do that? How, Don? You may be asking yourself, does one keep their Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. I'm glad you asked. It's a three-step process. Number one, smash that like button. Number two, subscribe. Number three, share. Because sharing is indeed caring. And once you share with your loved ones and your friends and your colleagues, hell, maybe even your boss, once you share that the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it, you have indeed cared about that person. All right, let's go ahead and get into what we got to get into today, because we got some things that we got to talk about, man. I got my drink today, so it's in my cup. Fantastic. Anyway, what we need to discuss today is the injuries. Shout out to Vondi Gaming, shout out to Jessa Fam, and everybody else who is here and not in the chat, and everyone else who will be in the chat a little bit later on. We got to talk about these injuries, man, because obviously we were watching the game. We didn't see what happened to Ahmed Hassanin. We didn't see him go down, but we saw that he was down. And, you know, to me, it was like he was sitting up, he was holding his arm. But then I thought, hey, you know, it's probably not that big a deal, right? Like he's holding his arm. Okay. But then when he took his helmet off, as at least the view that I was watching, because they panned to like the back of his head. They didn't show the front of his face because it looked like he was crying. So then I'm like, if he is crying, that's a lot more serious than what it looks like, right? We had the opposite with the Mo Norris thing that happened. It looked a lot more devastating and serious than it actually was. Now, this one looked a lot more innocuous and nothing to worry about than it actually was. Because when Dan Campbell stepped to the podium and he was asked about Ahmed Hassanin, well, he said he was going to be down a while. Now, when Dan Campbell says someone's going to be down a while or out a while, it usually ain't great. It's usually not a great thing, right? He uses a while as in the end of the spectrum. So like as far as you can go to how much a while means, that's what he does. That's where he's at. So if he says a while, he does from deep. That's what he means by a while. Yes, I did say innocuous. What I done Taylor made. Reports are that it looks like it could be a torn pectoral muscle. It looks like it could be a torn pec. Now, you could go with Frank Ragnow, or you could go Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Or you can go somewhere in between. Where do you think that Ahmed Hassanin is going to fall on the spectrum of a torn pec? Frank Ragnow missed what, like a couple games? Right? I guess it was partially torn. But knowing Frank Ragnow, it could have been fully torn, and he wouldn't have missed too many games. Right? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tore his against the Seahawks. I think that was week 2. And he didn't get back into the playoffs. Now, he was working his butt off. He was rehabbing, all these things. He didn't get back into the playoffs. Okay? So you got a guy that missed a couple of games, and then you got a guy that missed the vast majority of the season, right? If he went out in week 2, like he tore it in the first quarter, and then he played the rest of the game, right? And then that was it. He was shut down. So that's week 2. You come back in week 1 of the playoffs because we were in the wild card. I think he came back in week 1, right? So that's 15 games that you missed. See what you got. David Barnett says, we keep losing important depth. Now we just can't lose starters. Okay, now, here's where the conversation switches and changes a little bit. Okay, shout out to the heavies because, and excuse you guys are going to hear a lot of background noise. I just want to let you know that. Shout out to the heavies because I was listening to their show in the car before I started. And the sentiment is that there were games where Ahmed wasn't going to be active. It wasn't going to be, he wasn't going to be full-time active on the team all the time. We have to remember he's a 6th round draft pick and he's developing. Okay. And sometimes developmental players are not always up for every single game. Look at James Houston. James Houston wasn't so much a developmental player. James Houston was just a guy that they wanted more from, and he didn't necessarily fit what they wanted out of him from their scheme. Okay? So James Houston played 11 games in 2023. Or was it 2024? Right, his last year with us, 2024, he played 11 games. Okay? There were games where he was active. There were games where he wasn't active. Okay? Just a few, right? But the thing was, sometimes he was a healthy scratch. So I think when you take a developmental player who was taken in the 6th round, and you say, okay, he's going to be a healthy scratch some games, I think that's understandable. So the thing for Ahmed is he's losing this developmental time. So that is the thing for him, why it's such a blow. Yeah, you know, you want to play your first NFL season, and yeah, it's a dream, and you came from Egypt, and you've only been in, you know, playing the game 5 years. And, you know, it's a great story. So obviously you get drafted out of Boise State in the 6th round and all these things. And you want to play, obviously, because obviously he was going to make the team. Okay. The only draft pick I think that's in danger of not making the team right now is Dominic Lovett. I think he's in danger of not making the team because Jackson Meeks has done so much more. His performances have been so much better. All right. He's not dropping passes. He's not getting deboed. He's, you know, I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just saying, if we're comparing their performances, that's what you're going to see. But so Ahmed, he was going to make the team, but he just wasn't going to play every single week. Right. Sometimes you would have looked on the sidelines and you've seen him in street clothes and he's, you know, he's got the Lions attire on and you'd be like, oh, why is he not playing? Because he's still developing. But it sucks when anybody is injured. Now, when Dan Campbell was asked if there was like going to be a corresponding move, he said probably not. But, you know, Brad is always looking. Now that leads to some other questions I'm going to get to right after I get to this chat. Starting your year with McNeil, Onwuzurike, Hassanin out on the D-line is scary. For me, starting it was McNeil for me. We don't know what Ahmed is going to be in the NFL. We expect him to be a high motor guy and provide a lot of energy and stuff with the second unit. Levi Onwuzurike for me, I mean, he's played one full season. He's been healthy one season. Him not being there is the norm, right? Levi Onwuzurike played last year. That was it. He's never been healthy before, right? So him not being there for me is completely normal. I'm more used to not having him than I am having him. The kid got folded. It's the NFL, not the Mountain West Conference. It is indeed the NFL, not the Mountain West Conference. I second that. Hey, Larry says, no, it's not. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're referring to. Or maybe you were referring to the scary part. Yeah. Lovett's had a bigger impact on special teams. I mean, I'd rather have Meeks than Lovett. It's not scary. Okay. All right. Now, let's get to the other part of this situation. Are you replacing Ahmed Hassanin? No. Because as I just told you, no disrespect or anything, or no shots fired, he wasn't going to be an every game player, at least not initially. Okay? He's still a developmental piece. And I think a lot of people forgot about that. So now what we're talking about is not are you replacing him? We already needed someone else anyway. Well, guess what? Someone else has been taken off the table because earlier today, Matthew Judon signed with the Miami Dolphins. He signed a deal, a one-year deal worth up to $6 million. Up to $6 million. Okay. Here's where we crash out. Shout out to Derek, Lion Syndicate. He was talking about, I saw a video of his and he was talking about, hey, we should get Trey Hendrickson. And these are the trade proposals. So what he was trying to give up was a first round pick and a Josh Pascal type player. That's not what the Bengals want, apparently. According to Diana Rossini, they want a young star. So they're looking for a Brian Branch or a Jack Campbell type player. And to Derek's credit, he said these people are in the untouchable section, right? You're untouchable if you are a starter. So Brian Branch and Jack Campbell would be untouchable in his eyes and most of our eyes. You want a first round pick for Brian Branch. You want a first round pick and Brian Branch. Or you want a first round pick and Jack Campbell to get Trey Hendrickson, who's 31 years old, who wants a deal, an extension, long term. So how much longer is he going to be getting 17 and a half sacks per year? And does that matter if you're in your Super Bowl window? All we need him to do is come in and get 17 and a half sacks while Aiden Hutchinson gets 20. And while everyone else altogether contributes about maybe 20. Okay. But is it better for you to have Aiden Hutchinson and Trey Hendrickson minus Brian Branch? Well, you might say, hey, if we have Trey Hendrickson and Aiden Hutchinson together, quarterback's not going to have time to throw ever. So it doesn't matter who we have in the back end. Right? You can try me out there at safety and we'd be good. I used to play safety, but I was 9. Okay. All right. The answer would be no. I'm not giving you Brian Branch. Okay. I'm not even giving you Jack Campbell. So they're reaching into the bag of the untouchables. Okay. So does Trey Hendrickson plus Aiden Hutchinson minus Jack Campbell or minus Brian Branch, does it make your team better or worse? You guys can let me know in the comments. Does it make your team better, worse, or is it it's just basically it's a lateral move. Okay, because you're subtracting Brian Branch to add Trey Hendrickson. But you're going to have to pay Trey Hendrickson more money than you would have to pay Brian Branch. Brian Branch is going to command $21 million a year. He's going to get, 21.5? He's going to get slightly more than Kirby just because he's coming up after Kirby, right? Probably is a better all-around safety, better player than Kirby. I don't want to compare them because they are smash and grab or whatever the nickname. They didn't like the nickname. Kirby didn't like the nickname, right? Kirby being grab because he gets all those interceptions. So I'm not comparing the two, but we're just going to say for poops and giggles, he's going to come in at about 21.5 just so he can be slightly ahead of Kirby. Trey Hendrickson, we're looking at $40 million per year in that range because he is the upper echelon top tier of pass rushers. So that's that. Trey Hendrickson is probably not on your bingo card. Matthew Judon was on your bingo card. You had your internal discussions. And as I said, this is where the crash out happens. The crash out for me doesn't happen at Trey Hendrickson. Because if the Bengals are really, truly staunch on getting a defensive star, a young defensive star, while they get rid of an old defensive star, plus a first-round pick, you have to tell them, no thanks. See you later. Come back when you got a better deal. Okay? As I told you, y'all will hear a lot of background noise. I apologize. It's out of my control. I can't do anything about it. So you are going to tell the Bengals, hey, come back when you have a better deal. Matthew Judon getting a deal of upwards $6 million, like up to $6 million. That means it doesn't start at $6 million. That means he didn't sign for $6 million for 1 year. He signed up to $6 million. So whatever his base salary is, he's got to hit certain incentives to get that $6 million. Okay, cool. We have Marcus Davenport on a deal that is up to $4.75 million. If we don't re-sign Zadarius Smith, that's when you crash out. Unless they get someone from cuts who is either surprising or surprisingly good, right? Like he's surprising or surprisingly good. What does that mean? Surprising because he's a name and he got cut and then he signs with the Detroit Lions. Okay. It's a surprise cut. I talked about this before. Surprisingly good. It's like, oh my God, who is this guy? You know, we missed out on Big Z, blah, 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 blah. We got this guy who nobody knows, and then he comes in and he's a dog and he gets 9 sacks. Okay. That's the issue right now. So if you don't re-sign Big Z, you already missed out on Matthew Judon for pennies. Right? So, I mean, we better get Big Z because, again, Ahmed Hassanin was depth. But even before the injury, you needed a Big Z or someone else. You needed to add someone else. Maybe the injury bug is hitting everybody else so that it can spare Marcus Davenport. Okay. I tried it. Let me see what Sean got in the chat. So can't pay him. I guess we're talking about Trey Hendrickson. We kept 4 receivers on the 53-man roster last year. How many do you expect this year? Well, we kept 4 because we didn't have anybody. Right? Coming out of camp, we were freaking out about who was going to be wide receiver number 3. Okay? But we'll get into how you do, because they're going to keep 5 for sure. The 5 that they're keeping, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond, Tim Patrick, and Isaac Tesla. They're keeping 5 for sure. We'll get into how you can get a 6th in a second. Ain't nobody trading Cincy an all-star for an over-the-hill Hendrickson. Right. Exactly. See you later. It's like, come back when you sobered up. He said it makes your roster worse. They will be on his Trey will be on his couch this season. His career is over, period. I don't know that his career is over. There are a lot of teams out there who aren't contenders, who want to be contenders so bad that they will make moves like that. Remember, we did things like that by bringing in Trey Flowers and Jamie Collins. Okay, so remember, teams every year will make that move. So I don't think his career is over in the least bit. He's 31 years old. He's good. All right. So how can we bring in a 6th wide receiver? Well, very simple. There's a certain player. Now, this is my opinion, and this is probably anyone with eyes' opinion who actually goes and says, let me look at this objectively. I know this player has fans, and he has fans for a different reason than actual football. I'm not going to get into the reasons, but if you think about it hard enough, you probably can understand. This player is none other than one Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker is in year 3 and has never looked worse than he has in year 3. The body of work from Hendon Hooker, the observations coming out of training camp don't ever really say anything about Hendon Hooker, like positively. Not all negative. Some of it is meh. Some of it is boilerplate. Some of it is just, you know. But then when you see him in the games, it's more concerning for you for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason is that the competition that he is facing in these games is not competition that he would face during the regular season if he were to be your backup quarterback and something happened to your quarterback. Those aren't the people. These are second strings, third strings, fourth strings. There's a lot of strings, but none of them are the first. If he's looking like this, if he's having problems processing, not seeing the field well, making better decisions, protecting the football, I mean, come on, bro. The man has turned into a turnover machine. We thought Kyle Allen was bad in game number 1. I don't think Kyle Allen has any more turnovers in the next 2 games. Hendon Hooker has turnovers. He had an interception, which, again, I don't believe, if I'm being fair, I'm being honest, I don't believe that Dominic Lovett play was an interception. I think that they should credit a fumble to Dominic Lovett because he got the ball ripped out of his hands. Hendon Hooker threw it to him perfectly. He caught the ball. He put it right in the breadbasket. And then the defender comes up and rips it out of his hands. I feel like that wasn't on Hendon Hooker. I don't know if the official thing was an interception. I guess because it was a bang-bang type of play, it counts as an interception. I truly believe that it should be a fumble. So let's say we take away that interception and say he didn't have any turnovers in game number 1. In game number 2, he had 2 turnovers that got him pulled because he did not protect the football at all. He did not secure the football. It was 100% on him. It wasn't on anybody else. Game number 3, he throws an interception that loses the game. We were in the red zone, marching to either tie it up or go for 2 and win it. Now, as Dan Campbell said, the kid just made a play. And to some extent, he did just make a play. That was a super athletic play. He jumped way up in the air and snatched that ball, which is a play that you're not going to see from too many defensive ends or rush linebackers in the moment. But it's just the optics of the situation. You can't protect the football is now what we feel like about you in Detroit. And then you don't get the benefit of the doubt when you turn the football over. Case in point, if that had been Jared Goff out there and he was on one of his streaks of 500 passes with no interceptions or whatever, and then that dude jumped up there and took that ball, you'd have been like, man, that was just a heck of a play from the defense. I can't, hats off to him. Hats off to you, sir. That's what you would have done. But because it's Hendon Hooker and all we've seen from him in the preseason has been a lack of ability to protect the football, a lack of ability to understand the importance of the football, a lack of ability to consistently move the offense, a lack of ability to consistently see the field and understand what he was seeing and have a result. Because we've been told by coaches, we've been told by Dan Campbell, oh yeah, he's getting us he's doing the checks, he's getting us in the spots that we need to be in. But then what is the outcome? Once he does those checks, once he gets you the spots that you need to be in, what is the outcome? A 3 and out, a sack, a strip sack, sack fumble, if you will, an interception. What is where are the touchdowns? Where are the points? When Dan Campbell was asked if this was Kyle Allen's job to lose, he said yes. If we're talking about the fact that Kyle Allen has played, he's played better. It's his job to lose. He's played better. Kyle Allen is the leader in the clubhouse. And after week number 1, I wanted nothing to do with Kyle Allen, not because he threw 2 interceptions, The first one was it was one of the worst interceptions I've seen. It was awful. Okay. The second one, again, he demonstrated a lack of understanding of what to do with the football and put that thing into double coverage. The reason you don't often put a ball in double coverage is because there's one of your receivers and there's two of their defenders. So bad things most likely will happen. And if you're an NFL veteran quarterback, you should know that, right? If the season started tomorrow and you made me choose one of these backups, I'm taking Kyle Allen 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. I'm not thinking about Hendon Hooker at all. Not at all. So if you're asking, how do we get 6 receivers? You cut Hendon Hooker. You cut him. You put him on the practice squad. Because contrary to what the belief, let's just, because I can't, I got to keep going back to this because I was called crazy, right? People said I didn't know what I was talking about. People called me, Motor City Don P, a casual. Because I told you, there was no way in hell Hendon Hooker was a part of anybody's trade demand for them to give up someone like a Myles Garrett. Child, please. And then Brad Holmes was like, nah, well, we was going to get Myles Garrett, but they wanted Hendon Hooker. And he was like, nah. You know Brad Holmes be calculating. You know what I'm saying? You know, Brad, we calculating around here. That's what Brad Holmes does. He calculates. And you thought that Hendon Hooker was a reason that we didn't get anybody. Because somebody wanted Hendon Hooker, first of all. That's crazy. And then we didn't want to give him up. Second of all, that's crazy. To get the caliber of a TJ Watt, the caliber of a Myles Garrett, the caliber of a Max Crosby, the caliber of a Trey Hendrickson. Y'all thought that it was Hendon Hooker gumming up the works. Y'all crazy. But anyway, I digress. Hendon Hooker, I don't believe, especially with what he has shown, he hasn't looked good as a runner. He has not looked good or comfortable at all this season. He looked better last season. I'm not going to lie to you. In the preseason last season, Hendon Hooker looked better, which led to all of the uproar of when they brought Teddy Bridgewater in. Why are they bringing him in? Give Hooker a chance. I don't think anybody's saying that now. Not anyone who's willing to be objective. Not anyone who's willing to tell the truth about what they're seeing. Because I know there's some folks out there that are not willing to tell the truth about what they're seeing. Facts, big facts. I've seen it. I've dealt with it myself. Hendon Hooker should be on your practice squad. If you want to keep developing him and getting him reps of any kind, he needs to be on your practice squad. Other than that, taking up a roster spot for Hendon Hooker, nah, we're good. So that's how you get Jackson Meeks on the team. Let me get to this chat. We got a lot going on here. Okay, there we go. Ron Warnowski said he has fans too. I don't think so. Hendon Hooker looked composed after the game, even made the tackle after throwing an INT. I don't even know where to go with that one, you know? Are we trying to sign Hutch for about $1 million a year? If so, how do we keep JMO, Gibbs, etc.? They can keep them. You have to look at the way that they structure contracts. I don't know if you've ever seen my video about how they structured Kirby Joseph's contract, but Kirby Joseph has essentially no base salaries. Everything is option bonuses and roster bonuses and things like this. So that's how they do it, because it doesn't count against the salary. So if you're making 20 million a year, 21, I think he's making 21.25 million a year or something like that. About a fourth of that counts against the salary cap every year. Right? So this is how you get a person who's making 20 plus million, but they have like a $5 million or a $10 million salary cap hit because of all the bonuses, the option bonuses and everything like this. So that's how they would sign everyone. They structure the contract in a way that it doesn't hit the cap. The only way that they wouldn't be able to sign everyone that they have is if Sheila is not willing to pony up the money. Because again, as Brad told you before, it's not the cap, it's the cash. Right? You can finagle these contracts in a way where you can get everybody under the cap. That's how these teams do it. You look at certain teams, you're like, damn, how did they pay everybody? Look at the 49ers when they were doing their thing. Damn, how did they pay so many people? Look at the Eagles. Damn, how did they pay so many people? It's because the owners shell out the cash, and then you play with the language and you play with what is a base salary and what is a bonus. Right? Because certain bonuses don't really count against the cap like that, or they count a lower percentage against the cap than just the raw numbers. So that's how it gets done. All right. Yeah, okay. I was gonna say something, Ron. Boy, you better be glad I got it. You know what I'm saying? I caught it. Because I was gonna say I heard one of your relatives was on the practice squad. I'm not gonna tell you which one, because that would just be disrespectful. And there's no need for that. You know, we could all deal with each other with respect. Remember, Purdy was a third string long shot hope. Hooker is that for us. Is it time to give up hope? Yes. Purdy never looked this bad. When Purdy got his opportunity, he seized it. This is the difference. Hooker has looked terrible, and he's gotten worse as the years go by. No, not at all. Purdy just got paid. Purdy's making starting quarterback money. That's not happening for Hendon Hooker. Not in Detroit at all, ever. So, yeah, it is time to give up hope for Hendon Hooker. Time to put him on the practice squad. Time to get it out. 1 second. All right. So, yeah, the bottom line is Hendon Hooker's time in Detroit is done. So it's time for Jackson Mix. Put him on the squad. Oh, this guy's here, and he is going to be banned. Yeah, I don't know how Broski Bear got back into the situation, but he just got banned, and so he won't be able to consume any LNU content at all. In case you guys don't know, Broski Bear is a closeted racist, and I banned him from my channel for making racist comments. So he found his way into my stream here on LNU, and he won't find his way back. Good riddance to bad rubbish. See, Taylor Made Media says all these folks allegedly going to training camp. Nobody's watching Hendon Hooker zip the ball around. Are you watching Hendon Hooker get sacked, get strip sacked, fumble, throw interceptions, look like he doesn't know how to read the defense? Are you watching those things in the preseason? Because that's what I'm watching. As I said, last preseason, he didn't look like this. He actually looked like someone that you could have hope in. This preseason, I don't know. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe that's the reason why every season that he's been on the roster, they've brought in a different quarterback to compete with him because they know something about him that we don't know. And maybe this year he just came undone, right? He's tired of having to compete for his job. Well, listen, if you are the clear-cut backup quarterback, guess what you're not going to have to do? Compete for your job. Because if they're like, okay, this is the guy, he's got the command of the offense, he knows everything that's going on out there, he can initiate the offense and run the offense just like Jared Goff. You know who wasn't competing for his job? Nick Foles. You know who wasn't competing for his job? Matt Schaub. You know who wasn't competing for his job? Chad Henne. Chad Henne was a longtime backup of Patrick Mahomes. You know why Chad Henne is no longer the backup of Patrick Mahomes? Because he retired. That last Super Bowl they won, he retired, rode off into the sunset. He doesn't play football anymore. But you know, the next year, had he wanted to play football, you know where he'd have been? Right back behind Patrick Mahomes. We don't have that situation in Detroit. It doesn't exist. That is why Hendon Hooker has been having to compete for his job for 3 years. He had to compete with Nate Sudfeld. Now he's had to compete with Kyle Allen. Right? And Nate Sudfeld was garbage. He had to compete with Jake Fromm, which many people will tell you that Jake Fromm outperformed him. But the thing about Jake Fromm is we never saw him against any type of competition. Jake Fromm was always in the fourth quarter. So he was in there when everyone stopped watching the games. But Dan Campbell did say that he's probably going to start Hendon Hooker against the Texans. I'm guessing this is Saturday, the preseason game. He's going to start Hendon Hooker because he said to see him with, not the ones, but, the first unit out there. So he said he's probably going to give him more snaps or whatever the case may be. Obviously, you want to do that because if there's any hope of him actually sticking on the roster, this is his last week to show it. If he goes out there and he stinks it up and he turns the ball over, he's throwing interceptions and he's fumbling and he's not, he's tucking and running when he shouldn't. Hendon Hooker, my God, Hendon Hooker came into the game, dropped back, and ran into a lineman who was 5 yards to his left and got sacked. Did you see the play? It was his first series. Did you see it? Okay. That's terrible. How do you run into your own player and then take a sack? Man, at that point, you should have just thrown the ball away. All right. We need to find a new third string. Long, short, then. No, we need to find a second string quarterback. Because again, Kyle Allen, even though he's played better, Kyle Allen has this propensity for mental errors, and you don't know when that's going to crop up. Okay? You don't know when that's going to crop up. When a person has a propensity for mental errors, they're always going to bite you at the wrong time. Again, we hope all of this discussion is a moot point, not even come the season. Like all the way through the season, all the way through the playoffs, we hope it's a moot point because we hope that Jared Goff never gets injured. Jared Goff never even has to go out for a play. But the reality of that, of banking on that, is not, you can't live that way. You can't. Because Jared Goff missed some plays last year. And he missed them in a time where we had signed Teddy Bridgewater to come in and hand the football off because they didn't trust Hendon Hooker to hand the football off. And based off of his ball security, I 100% agree. You can't trust him to even hand the football off. That's crazy. All right. this. All right. Nice work if you can get it. What's that? May we please have a brief moment of silence for Hooker? Okay. Is that brief enough? Jake Fromm was the best backup they had last year, but Jake Fromm again didn't compete against anybody. That was if he was doing what he was doing against the second unit, that would have been fine. That's why they let him go, because they never gave him the opportunities against anyone. So, I mean, it was Hendon Hooker's job to lose. He didn't lose it. It was just really a competition between him and Nate Sudfeld. If Campbell starts Hendon Hooker, then they will be behind all game. Hey, and if they're behind all game because you started Hendon Hooker, then you've seen what you needed to see. What up, though, Tactical Sport? That makes sense to start him versus the Texans. Yeah, it does. Play him the whole game versus the Texans. What's Kyle Allen going to show you against the Texans that's going to make you think that Hendon Hooker is better? He's outperformed Hendon Hooker in all of the games. The 2 interception game that he had in Canton wasn't enough to get him pulled early. Hendon Hooker got pulled early because he had 2 fumbles. And they were both egregious. My man started running out of the pocket. He was turning into a runner and got stripped off of nothing. My man accepted the fact that he was going to take a sack and moved up in the pocket and didn't secure the football and got strip sacked. And then he got removed. And then people were like, well, Kyle Allen threw 2 interceptions and he didn't get removed. You have to look at the severity of these, like the brain fart that it took for you to get stripped both of those times was awful. It was worse than the interceptions. Like I'm telling you, both of the interceptions were bad. The first one was atrocious. The second one, you could argue that it wasn't as bad as it looked if you wanted to do that. There was no excuse for Hendon Hooker's fumbles at all. None whatsoever. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Oh, you didn't see that play? Well, you got to go see that play. Go see that play. And then you'll be like, all right, Don P. right. I like 8 of our receivers. Ball is my 8th. I just know we can't keep them all. You have them keeping 6. If they cut Hooker, why not? If you don't keep 3 quarterbacks, you know, why not? That's what I would say. What is Hooker's roster spot gonna do when you have a guy like Jackson Flax and Waxon? Shout out if you know, use the hashtag. Right? You got a guy like Jackson Flax and Waxon Meeks who is ascending and who is getting better and better, and who Dan Campbell said that they were going to be having long conversations about today. Right? What up, though, Lisa? Yeah, so what's the point of Hendon Hooker? Right? When you've got a young stud receiver in the pipeline. Kyle Allen has definitely performed better than Hendon Hooker. Not only did he run into the lineman, but he got the ball, put his head down, and ran into the lineman. I've seen all I need to see from Hooker. It was an atrocious play. Tremendously atrocious. Backing up Patrick Mahomes. Exactly. Chad Henne. They should bring Fromm in and play him to see what he can do. If he's not, is he on a roster somewhere or not? I don't know. Fromm had 3rd string against him, and on his team, he made it work. But that's what I'm saying. You should look better against the 3rd string. Hendon Hooker has looked bad against every string. Whether it's 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. I would keep Meeks over Hooker. Facts. Badgen is better than Hooker. Facts. You're not going to find me telling you too many people are better than Hooker. Mr. Lupe Lyons, what up, though? He says, so what's good, Don P? So you going to suit up as our next DE? I mean, I might now put on a few extra pounds. Since my playing days, I might do that. If they don't, like, I'm telling you, I'm going to crash all the way out if they don't sign Za'Darius. Because he's the only option that we have now. As I said, Matthew Judon is gone. He signed a deal for up to $6 million in Miami. Not big money at all. When you say up to, again, incentives, I don't know how much he's getting base salary-wise. But anyway, all right. You know what time it is. You know what we do on this show, boy. We flow, boy. But before we flow, boy, we got to check in on your dough, boy. Shout out Marcellus Wiley. Mailbag. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they reading you? Mailbag. Snick, mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. Who they plan on trotting out for DE other than Davenport, who's going to play about 2 games? Your guess is as good as mine. Tactical. Your guess is clearly as good as mine, because I don't know. If you don't sign Big Z, I can't tell you. I can't tell you who to sock it to. You know what I mean? Mailbag. What do you do when D'Amico Ryan sends the house and Kyle Allen comes up lame? I don't know. But at that point, if you're in a game with Kyle Allen, or you're just talking about in this situation, this is why I said don't play Kyle Allen. Shut him down. Let Hendon Hooker play the entire last game. Just let him do it. I don't think we're going to see the ones at all. They're about to do joint practices this week with the Houston Texans. So I don't know. Don't play them. Don't even. I guess you would have to address them just in case Hendon Hooker gets hurt. But yeah, don't play them. That's what I'm saying. Kyle Allen has won the backup quarterback job. Now, week one, definitely would have said that. Hendon Hooker has to have an absolutely spectacular game this week for anything. Mailbag, you think Broderick Martin can play DE? Didn't somebody say this before? Some article that we read, a big defensive end like Broderick Martin. And you're like, okay. But he might as well. Why not? We ain't got too many more. Mailbag, how different is the protection when Kyle Allen takes the snaps as opposed to Hendon Hooker in terms of personnel? Okay, so they've played almost equally with the same personnel. In game number one, Kyle Allen started, so he played with the twos, and then Tate Ratledge didn't even play that game. Okay, game number two was against the Falcons. Tate Ratledge started. I think Christian Mahogany started, and so did Hendon Hooker. And that's when he got pulled early against the Falcons because he had a fumbling problem. Kyle Allen comes in with the same exact offensive line because, remember, he got pulled early, right? So whatever Hendon Hooker was dealing with, Kyle Allen was dealing with the exact same thing. Not more, not less. And he came in and engineered a 5-play, 80-yard drive that ended in a touchdown that he threw to Isaac TeSlaa in the corner of the end zone. There you have it. So whether they play with the same, whether they play with different, Kyle Allen just looks better than Hendon Hooker. Jake Fromm is selling insurance according to Google. Is he working with State Farm? I hope he is. I don't think Broderick can play at all. Yeah, that's the joke. But but at the end of the day, someone mispositioned him as a defensive end in an article like a couple months ago. So, hey, put him at DE. See what he got. Mailbag, now that the 6th rounder out of Boise State is on the mend, what are your expectations from El-Quadin Muhammad, the El-Quadin Muhammads of the world? I mean, my expectation from AQM would probably be similar to what he did last year, maybe a little bit more because he's here, through training camp, preseason. He's had the whole offseason with us, as opposed to him not having it last year. The thing about AQM last year is he just continued to get better week in and week out. And I think he came in and he had like 3 sacks. He might have had a little bit more, right? But I know he had 3 for sure. So he came in, filled in, and did his job well. And We saw him hustling out there. We saw him. Who was that? One of the Dolphins running backs like broke through the line for somehow. AQM was the one that chased him down and tackled him and saved the touchdown. So yeah, I expect him to be a solid backup. That's what he was last season. I expect him to do the same. I don't expect him to be a starter or anything of that nature. But no, I have confidence in AQM. All right. Appreciate you guys once again. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here and get back to work. I got one more mailbag. Okay, I'll take it. If you look at the Commanders and Bengals, they have their starters dressed. How come we don't give our starters a dress rehearsal? Because we have an extreme problem with the injury bug, and I don't even think that they want to attempt dressing them because they might get hurt on the sidelines. There's something going on. Who was it? Dan Skipper said, whoever's got the voodoo doll on us, please pull out the pins. When you got players saying stuff like that, it's crazy. And we see it's all the time. It's all the time. So that's what I would say. No, I have never grilled a moose, and I will never grill a moose. Not to mention the Bears played their starters. Okay, so poverty franchises play their starters. Okay, got it. The Packers did it too, so and theirs wound up getting surgery on his non-throwing hand. So it is what it is. All right. Once again, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. Appreciate you all. Once again, join me tomorrow on my channel, Motor City Cats. If you are not a subscriber of the Motor City Cats, please feel free to go into the YouTube search engine and type in Motor City Cats. I shall pop up. You will see these beautiful buffs on your screen. All right. Appreciate y'all once again. We are out. Peace.